There is a couple of examples where it will be more frequent than that, but if we assume 24 hours, that's the cadence that we run through there. Cool. And then one of the big additions to this process, and I'll talk a little bit about that process now, is compared to our previous app, this performs automatic matching and refreshing, okay, across those countries. So if you have an entire USA database, for example, we will manage that automatically in the background for you, and I'll just talk through the process on how that works. You can probably tell the slide that I've done compared to the slide that our marketing guys have done. So we match and enrich in 3 ways within the new Salesforce product, okay? When you install it and activate it, we do an initial cleaning. We know you have governor limits, so what we don't do is start doing millions of API calls. What we do is we take 10,000 batches, send them down to our matching process, and they'll go through the matching and enriching process. Additionally, every hour, any new records you create, we'll also try and match them as well. So for both of those 10K batches initially and the hourly runs, we'll pass them down, we'll match them based on the settings that you've selected yourselves. We'll then enrich the data onto those records that we've managed to match, and then we'll push that data back into your system. And it's entirely up to you where you put that data. You configure the fields. So that's the match and enrich process. And then every 14 days, everything that's already been matched, we'll just take all of that data and we'll enrich it and push it back up. So you'll never have data older, where matched, than 14 days. And that's one of the really significant improvements in this product. Okay.
I think that's really helpful. Sorry, I do have one other question. It sounds like you said that we actually identify the matching criteria. Is that correct?
So I'll touch on that in a sec in the configuration. Basically, we have a file structure that we match to. So you'll define what data goes into that match file, but also you can select between match ratings of A and E. A is basically an exact match, and E is a much looser match. And it's up to you to decide your risk appetite. However, what I do have, as if by magic, what we have is this document which will inform you of all the patterns that make up A, B, and C, D and E as well. But basically A is very much an exact match. B, we start to get into a similar name or a partial business name, but exactly the same address, things like that. So there's a lot of lovely information there to read if you get bored one day. But that will kind of, by reading through that and understand the types of matches that are provided in those different segments, will give you the capability to understand your appetite for risk versus match, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's
so. I want to make sure I'm understanding there, just to confirm. So we can configure which fields are being used for matching, right?
Right.
And then for determining which bands we want. So if we just say we're only comfortable with A and B, then C, D, and E, those just wouldn't ever match, and we would build a report, something, and go in and manually match those.
Absolutely, and in terms, you wouldn't need to build a report because we sort it back for you as well.
Okay.
So it probably makes sense actually if I just jump straight in. So what we've done is a couple of principles. I don't know if you guys have seen the our old Salesforce app, as it were. What we have done in this one is a significant improvement to the master data management aspect, which we've just talked about there. The monitoring aspect, in the old one, you used to have to refresh a record each time you wanted to. This happens automatically. And also we're sticking to the Salesforce standard processes. So in the same way as you would apply permissions to someone in Salesforce for a Salesforce function, you use that same method here. So we're using permission sets, if that makes sense, for those people responsible for the administration of it. So it makes the administration of this process a lot easier. So those are the improvements. I'm aware we only have half an hour, so what I'll probably do is just rinse through a very quick demo, and we'll go from there. So feel free to interrupt. So here we have the dashboard. This tells your administrator how you're doing. I'm not doing very well with my test data here. I've 73 match reports, records, and 162 unmatched records. We have a little visualization there to show how many you've got matched and unmatched. I'll skip this and I'll come back to that. What you can see here are these jobs that I've talked about going back and forth and whether they've been enriched or not. And also, as mentioned here you have the capability to manually match accounts. Obviously, it's Salesforce. If you want to, you can export that data and do something else and re-import it. But if you've got a smallish number of unmatched accounts, then you can do it here. If I choose, let's choose that one. So if I take a Belgian record, for example, here, what we'll do is, what we've done, just so you know, is we know that it's got Belgium in the country code, and we also have taken the name and actually just the name, and we've done a search on it. So you don't have to go through that process of clicking search, entering details, etc., etc. And I am pretty sure that this is the record that I'm after. It's the same name, and maybe I know the address for it. So I will click on match the account. We're giving toasts. We're reinforcing all the way through whether the site's been a success or not. We know that we're not going to have a credit limit or credit rating because it was an inactive account, but what I've done now is I've created that link between our data and your record there. So now going forward, that's a matched account, we will enrich that data. So if I hit done, we'll see that's gone up to 74 and the unmatched has gone down to 161. So you can go through that process and very quickly finish off that matching process. So we will attempt to match it, and then if there's any that we haven't been able to match, then you can manually match them yourself. So you can ensure 100% there. So I'm going to jump in and out of settings a little bit just to describe the piece and then move back to it. So I'll just talk about what we've done in the settings here. So we're going to jump to field mappings, which is where all the details around the data clean aspect of it, this master data management aspect. So in here you can see, obviously I'm doing a demo, so I'm going to pick a pretty low one to show you that there's good matches, but you can you set your match algorithms there. So which of those rules am I happy with? Additionally, you can add an email as well. So if there is an issue with that process, if it starts to fall over, if there's some unexpected data that's been allowed to go into the process, it will give you a heads up on that. And then this is where what we've attempted to do is ensure that you have total control of what's happening. We're aware that we're bringing data into your environment, so we want you to have total control of what you do with it. So here is the matching file that we will send from yourselves out to our matching algorithms. This allows you to decide for CreditSafe's company name. This will pull all the fields from your account, even custom fields, etc., and you'll be able to map them in. So what you can do is ensure that you're mapping the correct data from wherever on your account fields to ensure that you get the best matches. And these are the fields that we utilize to match. So this is creating a file that leaves Salesforce to us. We do enrichment on account and lead, but I'm just going to talk about account today. This is the data that comes back. So when we've matched a record and then we've brought that record back with enriched data, this gives you the capability to decide where to locate that data on your account object. While you're trialing things, testing things, I know that one customer is bringing this data in and creating shadow fields, so when they're testing, they can compare what we're bringing in compared to their own data. Or you can just bring it straight in. But in short, it allows you to do whatever you want to do with the data we're bringing to you. what I like to say is we'll bring it into your front door, you decide where you put it from there. So that's the data aspect of it and the data cleaning aspect of it. You also have at any point the ability just to say, stop that process, you know, if you get nervous about it or anything like that. But we've made sure that it's really easy just to turn this off or on as you want. Any questions on the cleaning part of it?
No,
On the subject of testing, do you guys allow us to test in a sandbox?
Absolutely. So this is driven by our Connect API, like our ETL platform. So we can set you up a trial account, give you some records in certain countries, and just allow you to install it into a sandbox and then trial it from there. In fact, installing into a sandbox, I absolutely recommend it because we're dealing with master data. You want to be sure you've got it right for yourselves before, you know, letting it loose on your live data.
Fantastic, thank you.
No problem at all.
And then, are they able to test the new one, Chris, now already?
Sorry?
Are they able to test the new Salesforce app now?
There's one change that we're waiting for, which I'll point out in a second. In fact, two changes, which is around trade payment data and surfacing that more clearly. It's in here. At the end of the day, if customers want to trial this one and they're not worried about trade payment, like this package is ready. The only thing that's stopping us right now is Salesforce legals. We're having to sign some contracts with those guys. It's always the way, isn't it?
Sure.
So yeah.
Well, they don't share. They've got strict sharing policies, so I don't know if that matters or not.
That's right. This what will happen is if we trial this before we've gone through the security process, there'll just be a little warning that says, you know, this isn't a Salesforce certified application, but within about 6 weeks, it absolutely will be.
Okay.
Less than 6 weeks, sorry.
Okay.
So in terms of utilising it in the sandbox to trial it to see if it works for you, there's nothing to stop you doing that at all. Cool. And as part of the beta process, we'll be here to help you out as well. We're making sure that with the beta process, anyone that's trialing this, using it in their sandboxes, we'll be here to kind of hold your hand through the process and just, it's as much about us learning any problems that you guys have as much as it is about us supporting you as well. Cool. So that's the data cleaning part. Obviously, there's two areas within a universe such as Salesforce that can go wrong. A, your data can go out of date, but secondly, people can, your users can bring data into Salesforce, which is inaccurate as well. So what we've done is we've created a component to allow you to utilize credit safe data on creation of accounts or leads. And the best way for me to show you that is actually in the Sales Cloud. I usually do this demo in the Service Cloud, so bear with me if I struggle on it. So, as I said earlier, within the Salesforce process, within the Salesforce environment, we've built this really fully native. Okay, so this may be a sales guy's, you know, front screen, home screen. What you can do, I can edit this page. And when I edit this page, you'll find that down here, Credit Safe have some custom components. So I can drop company search into here. Sorry for any Salesforce admins if I'm teaching you how to suck eggs, as it were. And I'll just activate this. Yeah. Cool. Save that and back. So when I've done that, what I've done is into your process, I've injected this component. And this component is a search, report, and create component. So my default here is set to United Kingdom. I'm based in the UK, but I have the option to select US as well. And I'll show you the config for this in a second. So in here, I can type in, let's go there. And what's going to happen is we're going to pull up our report, okay? So one thing to be aware here is we hold an awful lot of data on companies, okay? So the last thing we want to do is flood your Salesforce environment because we know how much it costs to store data in the Salesforce environment. So we selected key data to hold, but you can always go to this report to get the full information. And as I said, I know payment data is super important in the US. Right now, it's here on the additional information tab and down there. So one of the changes we're going to be making in the next few weeks is to bring this payment data up into its own tab, because we're aware that it's super important in the US. So I've gone to this report. What I can do now is I can say create an account. Depending how I've set this up, we'll then populate the account name, the employee number, parent accounts, any registration numbers, websites, etc. into this, addresses, etc., and save that. So you can block your users from directly creating new accounts and drive them to create new accounts through here. What you're doing is you're maintaining your universe by ensuring that you're not getting rubbish in, and also you're keeping your data clean on a day-to-day basis afterwards. So you can see we've created that account. Also, we have the monitoring component here. But what I am going to do before I talk about monitoring is I'm quickly going to jump back to the settings to show you what happened in everything I did there. I'll go back to create and save. Is everyone following? Am I going at the right speed?
Yeah.
Yep, I'm good.
Excellent. Cool.
Yeah, I did actually want to ask if it sounds like everything is configurable here, so I'm sure I know the answer, but if we don't want every account to be matched on creation, are we able to configure specific criteria on the record of when do we actually make the match and start running credit safe on this record?
Yeah, so we're creating on the account field a tick box basically, which allows us to identify whether to include or exclude an account from the matching process. So what you would be able to do is interact with that tick box in your account creation process to define whether to add it or not. Does that make sense? Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, because we have a field that indicates that it's actually submitted, and that's the point that we actually care about it.
Okay, got it. Yeah, great. So yeah, that's that'll be the point to then untick that maybe. But yeah, again, this is the thing is by us utilizing this kind of native Salesforce methodology, it means that you can interact with our package and our fields that we're creating into your own processes. So on here, United Kingdom is what I'd set as my default. I can set the US if your users are always going to be searching for the US, and there's additional defaults that you can set. I've got this set to name, which is why I can put in name, address, etc. You can also configure it by registration number, safe number, VAT number, probably not VAT number, but you get my drift. So you can define how you enter your data based on your own processes. And then similarly, you can default limited, non-limited, but probably most important is you can default whether to only show active companies. Because I'm guessing you probably don't want to sell to inactive companies. So you can set that. And then in here, as you saw, when I created an account, and when I did a search, I took some data from some fields on that account and I populated my search fields. And this is exactly what this is doing. So what I'm doing is I'm populating those fields automatically based on the search. So again, full configurability from your point of view. And then the final bit is monitoring. So I'll go to the monitoring dashboard. So we're given a monitoring dashboard overall. So your admins can just, or maybe you could give it to your finance guys or whatever, to keep a view on all of these monitoring portfolios. And what we'll see is, this is a just so you know, I'm a little bit rural. So my Wi-Fi when I'm on Teams can sometimes run a little bit slow. We go to default portfolio. Okay, that's cool. Okay, there are no notification events in the last period. So on this particular portfolio, I've not had any events in the last 30 days. I'm getting my usual risk summary, so I can see the risk of that portfolio, and I can see any aged events beyond 30 days. Yeah, here we go. So here we can see the changes on the companies in that particular portfolio. And then in a similar way to as I said, to our Connect monitoring solution, I can see all companies that are in that particular portfolio. And then I can also run and select all the rules. So we have the global rules here, which apply to every single company in that group. Every single country that we cover. But then, because data is different between different countries, you can see all the very specific rules for each country, because we have an awful lot of information that we can partake in that space. However, for your users, what you would see is something a little like this. So if I go into an account, again, we've got another one of those components. So if I go into Credit Safe, Tesco's always have some, he says, hopefully. Excuse this. This is, as I said, this is my broadband rather than. Of course, there's nothing on that. Bear with me. All accounts, and I'll go to British Airways. Always has. There we go. So what your user will see is they'll be able to see the ratings of the companies changing any monitoring events that come through based on that portfolio. Additionally, within that account, you have the credit rating, the international score, the credit limit. Just although they're here in a slightly different look and feel, that data is on the account. So if you wanted to use the credit rating or the credit limit for your processes, then you can absolutely pick that data up from the account and run those processes. There's a million things you can do with it, so it's there available to yourself. And then you have your company rating, which we change ours every so often to create events. So that's the monitoring stuff. There's no configuration actually in the app for the monitoring items. That's all managed via config. A couple of little bits, and I'm running towards the end, a couple of little bits. So authentication, what we do is we give you a Connect ID, you just log that in, it refreshes its token every hour. You do this once, you sign in once, and all going well, you never have to sign in again, it'll just refresh it every hour. We use permission sets, as I said, so you have a user, a view only, and an admin permission set to define what your people are allowed to do. I think that is the full tour that I usually take about 40 minutes to do in about 20. Is there any questions?
When you create an account, Chris, what's the timing of when that credit comes back? Like the credit
Sorry,
score?
so I coughed just as you asked the question.
Sorry. When you create the account, what's the timing of getting that credit data into Salesforce, like the credit score and?
Yeah, so it's immediate. So when you create an account, what we do is we call off to our API, pull that report back, and then that's there immediately.
Okay.
And that's all driven off that tick box that we're going to be using, right?
So hold on, let me think. So that tick box defines whether we are using the automated process.
Okay.
The manual identification. So if I did a search straight away, it's going to go and it's going to go and get that report data. Yeah. So it's immediate.
And if we ever have to do sometimes you do an investigation if we can't find a company in your database, how does that process work with this?
Yeah, so good question. I don't have an answer to that. I'll have to come back to you on it.
All right, no problem.
Well,
Apologies.
You'll always have access to the online facility. So,
Yeah.
in theory, I would say probably you could log into the online facility, search it for yourself. If you find it, grab that safe number. Then imagine, is there a box for a safe number if you want to just enter a safe number? And it
Typically typically on our end, what'll happen is if we have to do an investigation, it just means we don't have a matching credit safe. So we'll do that investigation, then we end up getting an email. That email is only seen by one individual, not by the entire team. So that means that the person who gets that email has to go into credit safe and then add it through the email that we received to create it as a real account or something that's going to be visible to the team. So rather than having all those additional steps in order to get that data, we are just wondering whether the investigation will be an automatic feed into our existing database.
Right, that's a good question.
It is a really good one, actually.
Yeah.
That's probably a new requirement there. Leo, did you get that one? It's probably worth, if you can just log that one down. I think it's a relatively US specific thing, so we just need to capture that and make sure that's available in the roadmap going forward.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Things are a little more difficult over here, Chris, because there is no repository for that data. And so there's no central ID number that's filed with the government and what have you. So a lot more legwork for credit managers here to find the company.
Yeah. I also do quite a lot of work with our search in CreditSafe, so I'm aware of the difficulties that you have in terms of that data set. Yeah, really. Yeah. That's cool. Cool.
Jamie, Chance, do you guys have anything?
I just had a quick question. Is there a cost for the app?
Well, it's built into your guys' new contract, so there's no additional cost on our end.
And you're not limited to number of users for the application either?
No.
Your whole team can log in? Okay, cool. Great.
The application is company based. We just didn't want to get into the whole, okay, how many users do we need, et cetera, et cetera. It's at the end of the day, the data is the value we provide. So the data is the conversation, and the app is a way of delivering that to you.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Cool, no worries.
And I just want to make sure I'm absolutely understanding. So in theory, for a full setup, we could say, don't automatically connect every account to CreditSafe, but we write automation in Salesforce that says when this pick list value changes to this, or this pick list field changes to this value, then go ahead and check the CreditSafe box, and then checking that box is what triggers all the automation to do the connection and start running things.
Yeah, basically that box is a exclude from automated process box. So you would automatically have that checked, and then you would remove the check when you were ready to send it through the process. Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Just to be really clear on that one, the developers are building that right now. So if I give you a version of that right now, you wouldn't see that checkbox. In the next couple of weeks, there'll be a version with that checkbox in. Cool.
Okay.
There we go. So yeah, I guess the next steps we can. I don't know how much of an issue for you guys the trade payment, the payment data component is down there in the additional items. One of the pieces of work we're doing is, as I said, to bring that up into the tab and to do that checkbox. If you wanted to get your hands on this, get it into a sandbox, have a bit of a play, just make sure it does everything that you want to do, I'll be more than happy to send it on to you just to drop in. We can then have a quick call if just to double check that everything's going okay for you guys. And then as we go through the process to make it security reviewed, then we can move you guys onto it as soon as possible there.
Okay. Yeah, Jamie, Chance, do you want to talk offline on that? The timing of that?
Great.
Yeah. Sounds good.
Awesome. I'll leave that with you.
All right.
And Chance, if you want me to just go ahead and get the sandbox environment going, I mean, I just need to submit a simple form and I would send it to you, I assume.
Yeah, we'll need to figure out the timing.
Sure.
It's not something that I would be able to start on immediately on my end.
Okay.
And also, when we test in a sandbox, we want to make sure that we're testing everything. So it sounds like, I don't know for sure. Like we said, we're gonna have to talk offline on the timing. But if I had to guess, we'll end up in a situation where it's going to benefit us to just wait for these last couple pieces to roll out and get that security cleared through Salesforce before we realistically be able to start on it. So it's not guaranteed that will happen, but that's what my guess would be.
Okay, cool.
Well, this was great, guys. Thank you so much for the demo. Definitely
No
appreciate it.
problem.
Yeah.
I love demoing the product, so thank you for listening to me.
Yeah, absolutely. All right.
Great.
Thank you, everybody. That's great.
All right.
Thanks,
Thanks, guys.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Enjoy your day.